All right, so this is actually my second time recording this episode. I just recorded it a little while ago, but for some reason, when I uploaded it to my computer, it came out in this super funky format, one that I could not open and one that I could not edit. But luckily, this is my favorite component of self-improvement. So I've already rehearsed it, and this one's going to be even better. This discussion's going to be way better than the last one. So, welcome to Ion Motive. This is episode number 31, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to construct a great vision. And I'd like to start with a couple of verses from Matthew chapter 7. Again, don't have to share the same religious views as me, don't have to share similar ideas at all, but I was reading this and I felt like it was very relevant to this conversation. So I would like to incorporate these verses into today's episode. So Matthew chapter 7 verses 7 and 8 says, "Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth. And to him that knocketh it shall be opened." So really I wanted to spend some time talking about this idea of vision because one, it is the starting point for any progression in your life. If there's something you want that requires time and effort, you must first visualize it. In order for something to happen, you must see it before it actually happens. And like I said, the second reason I want to talk about it is because it's my favorite component of self-improvement. There's a virtue called telos. Telos is Greek and it means end. It's this vision, the aim we're trying to reach. For some reason, I just think it's the most interesting part of self-improvement, of all the virtues. I just find it the most exciting. I just really love talking about it. So I am ready to talk about it today. This is actually a topic that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time, but I really didn't feel like I was ready. Like I wanted to talk about it, but I felt that when I was going to do so, it had to be good. So I put it off for some time, and I now feel like I'm ready. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Before we begin, I do ask that you share and that you subscribe, that you download this episode. Do those little things as they will help benefit me. They will help grow this show. It just takes a few minutes. I really appreciate all the support. I'm also going to leave a link for this awesome motivational video in the show notes in the description. It's called Vision. It is by this guy named Mateus M. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it. I think he's from Poland, and it's a name I'm not familiar with, so I could be botching it. But this guy, he creates a ton of awesome motivational videos. He doesn't do them so much anymore, but if you've seen any motivational videos on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen some of his work because he has some of the most viewed videos, some of the most popular ones. And this one is one of my personal favorites, one of my favorites that he has done. So I highly suggest you watch it if you're into that kind of thing. Again, I'll leave the link for it down in the show notes. Now, let's get into today's episode. I really wanted to talk about this concept of vision also because I think a lot of people have trouble with it. So, one, they don't necessarily know where to start. They don't know what it is they want, and that's kind of concerning to them. They don't know how to venture out. And with this, they don't want to do the wrong thing. They don't want to put a lot of time and effort into one area or one field and then realize, this isn't what I want to do. I should not have done this. So I'm going to try to help you get over that fear. I'm going to show you why just trying something, why trying to construct your vision is going to be very beneficial for you in the long run. Like in my other episodes, normally I try to start with this concept, try to introduce it, and then try to incorporate some key steps, some key insights that will actually really help you guys. Try to get specific with some tips that will benefit you, tips that you can actually apply to your life. So I'm trying to do the same thing here. I've got 3 talking points for today's episode. The very first thing I want to start with is I think it's important to prioritize something more valuable and more significant than your goal itself. So let me repeat that. Prioritize something more valuable and more significant than your goal itself. So I just shared those couple verses from Matthew chapter 7. If we actually look back a chapter, verse 33, there's something very interesting. So it says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things should be added to you." And I think this concept of seeking something more is very applicable to this idea of vision. I think if we paraphrase that and bring it down to the level I'm talking about it, we can say that if we aim at a higher value, something beyond our goal, the rest of it will fall into place. So if we prioritize something more significant than the goal itself, then everything else is going to work out. That might be kind of abstract, so let me try to explain it with a couple of different examples. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have it turn into my career. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do speaking. Anything related to the topics I'm talking about, I would love to do that as a job. I would love to make money off of it. But that's not my end goal. My end goal, my telos, my vision is to become a better person. That's ultimately one of the reasons, one of the biggest reasons, one of the most important reasons I do this podcast. I want to become a better person and a person of integrity, right? I have to do a lot of work with this page in order to actually put out these episodes. But I'm reading, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm doing things that are helping me become this better person. And now the podcast just kind of falls into place. Now that I'm doing these things, I'm able to talk about them. So once we have our primary goal in mind, we're able to formulate the steps to reaching our lesser goal, or in this case, the example, the goal of turning it into a career. So for example, now that I have that end goal, this idea of integrity, this goal of becoming a better person in mind, it formulates the steps for making this podcast turn into a career. Now that I have that end goal in mind, I can think about, what do I want my videos to be like? How do I want to convey my message? How am I going to put out information that is actually helpful, right? Because now that this goal of turning it into a career is governed by something more, I'm going to act on that. I'm going to prioritize that, and the rest is going to fall into place. If I just had the goal of making money as my end goal, then I might do something stupid. I might sell out. I might try to take a shortcut to make more money. And in the scheme of things, that's not going to be very helpful. In the long run, that's not going to be very helpful. I'm going to forfeit something I actually care about to achieve something that's not as important to me. So it's important that we prioritize something more. And when we do so, that's going to lay the groundwork. That's going to lay the framework for achieving our lesser goals. So another example, if your goal is to make a lot of money, you have to think about why that's the case, right? Because if you just want to make a lot of money, you're going to get sick of that. I mean, you can only have so many cars. You can only have so many houses. At some point, you're not going to be happy. You're just making more money. You're not going to be more fulfilled. There's many studies that show that once you make a certain amount of money, your happiness doesn't increase. And guess what? I can't even remember the exact number, but it's not nearly as high as you would probably think. I don't even want to guess what it caps at, but it's not like $10 million. It's way, way, way smaller than that. I know it's less than $1 million. It's less than that by quite a significant amount. So you have to prioritize something more. So if you say, I want to make a lot of money, figure out why that is. Maybe it's because when you were growing up, you weren't able to go on vacations, you weren't able to participate in sports or other extracurricular activities. You had to work, and you want to provide your spouse and your kids with the opportunities you didn't have. I genuinely believe if that's your goal, if you're prioritizing that end goal of doing it for your family, then the rest of it's going to fall into place. If that's your goal, it's going to become much more clear. It's going to become something that you can actually figure out how you're going to achieve it. Another perfect example is sports. In a sport like football, a team sport like football, you have to prioritize the team, something more valuable than just the individual, right? Because one person can only do so much. Every individual has their strengths and their weaknesses, but a group, a team, is able to balance those components out. So one person's strengths will cover another person's weaknesses. An individual can't do it alone. No matter how good the quarterback is, if they have a crappy O-line or a crappy defense, they're not going to be able to win the game by themselves. And I think when you prioritize the team more than just yourself, when you care about something more than just yourself, you're going to put in a lot more effort. You're going to work. During the conditioning, during the weightlifting, during all those tough moments, if you prioritize something more, that's going to push you. That's going to continually inspire you. So that's really my first talking point for this idea of constructing your vision. You need to prioritize something more than just your goal itself. Prioritize something more valuable, more significant than just your goal itself. The next key to constructing your vision is to get specific. I've heard everybody say it at some point. I've said it at some point. Anybody who's in this realm of self-improvement has probably said it, that they want $1 million. But the truth is, if you cannot answer why you have the vision, then you don't have a clear vision at all. If you cannot answer why you have the vision, you do not have a solid vision at all. The issue I have is that sometimes we're just in love with the idea of it and we don't actually want it. So in the case of making $1 million or having $1 million, it feels pretty good to talk about. It feels good to say it out loud. It feels good to think about what we might be able to buy. But if we can't answer why we want it, then it isn't relevant to us. It does not matter. So I think when we're talking about dreams and vision, it's important to make the distinction between the two. So when I think of the word dream, I imagine myself looking up at the stars, seeing tons of beautiful stars, beautiful planets, but it's kind of splotchy, like it's fading in and out. It's not very clear. But when I think of a vision, I think of something that is crystal clear. It's a picture that I can look at. It's something that I can actually see. It's something that is relevant to me. So to return to the example with $1 million, the actual amount is very, very relevant. You need to get specific. So think about what it is you actually want and think about how you want to live. And if you need less than $1 million in order to live that life, great. If you need way more, if you need $1 billion, then that's okay too. What matters is that the number is relevant to you. You have to get specific with your vision so you can actually achieve what you want. If you don't get specific and you just throw out these nice ideas and you never narrow it down, then you're never going to achieve what you want. So you have to do so. You have to get specific. All goals change from person to person, whether it's related to fitness, whether it's related to finances, whether it's related to relationships, no matter what field it is, it just has to be relevant and true to you. So I've mentioned a number of times on this podcast how I would like to do some public speaking in the near future. So I was trying to think of a framework that I could use with my speeches. A lot of people have, the 5 keys to success. A lot of people have the 3 R's of success. I don't even know. I'm just making things up. But you get what I'm talking about. So I was trying to think of something that I could use, and I was thinking of the 3 E's. So envision, embrace, earn, or 2 E's and an A. Envision, embrace, and achieve. So I want to talk about those first 2 components of that, envision and embrace. Once you have this crystal clear picture of what it is you want, once you envision it, you must embrace it. So that's what I want to talk about next. You have to construct a plan to get there, and you do so by starting with the end in mind. So in order to actually achieve something, you must first have a crystal clear picture of what it is you actually want, and then you can figure out the necessary steps to achieve it. So I've had this conversation with my dad. We were talking about the whole $1 million thing, how some of my friends were talking about how they wanted $1 million, how I wanted $5 million, how somebody wanted $100 million, right? And he said, Ian, that's kind of irrelevant. What matters is that you figure out what it is you want first. So start with the end in mind. Start with, what do you want your life to look like? What kind of car do you want to drive? Where do you want to live? What kind of house do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? Things like that. And then figure out how much that's going to cost. So literally the other day I started doing this. I created an Excel spreadsheet and I started figuring out how much this house is going to cost, how much this car is going to cost. So I was constructing my ideal life. I was figuring out the exact dollar amount that it's going to cost. Now, I'm probably going to be missing some bills and things like that, but that's a great starting point. I'm starting with the end in mind, and then I can figure out how I'm actually going to achieve it. When you get specific, you can actually figure out a plan to achieve your goal. So that was my second talking point for this idea of constructing your vision. You have to get specific. The last talking point that I want to go over in this episode is that if you're not sure what it is you actually want, it helps to figure out what you don't want. See, I've noticed that a lot of people will become stagnant because they're unsure of what it is they actually want. So they end up staying right there, right where they are. They're almost afraid to try something. They're afraid to put in time and effort with something because it might not work out. I mean, it would suck to put in 2 years to something and then realize, yeah, this isn't for me. But unless you're actively seeking what it is you want, you probably will not find it, right? Just staying still, just waiting for the idea to pop into your head is probably not a good way to go. What you're seeking is seeking you. So the solution to this dilemma is to try something, and it's okay if it doesn't work out. No time is wasted if it pushes you closer to your telos, to your end, to your true vision. So I was talking to my sister Hannah the other day, and she's currently at Dixie State studying filmmaking, and with this, she wanted to try to fit a specific role. She thought, maybe if I'm working on a specific field, maybe editing, maybe sound, I'll be able to land more jobs. I'll be able to work with more people who are doing films because they'll know that, oh, okay, I'm the sound girl. Okay, I'm the editing girl, right? Because if you don't hone in on that, then they might not go to you. So she was thinking, what should I narrow down? What should I try to focus on? Because she's unsure. She likes doing a lot of things. So I told her, why don't you just try one? Why don't you just try sound? Why don't you just try editing? Because if you do that, let's say you try sound, you're going to develop some great skills with that, right? So you're going to become more skilled in that area. So that's a plus. And if it works out, great. That's what you want to do. And if it doesn't work out, okay. Yeah, that sucks that wasn't the thing that you wanted to do. But now you're skilled in an area and you realize that's what you don't want. So now you're even closer to figuring out what it is you actually want. So there's only good that comes out of trying something. One, it's going to develop your skills, whether you like it or not. And if you like it, great. You can keep working down that path. If you don't, that's okay. Now you've got some skills, but you can work on a different area. You've narrowed down your choices to figuring out what it is you actually want. Like, there's literally no loss to it. So that's really my third point. Kind of short and sweet, but you've got to try something, right? If you're unsure of what it is you want, try something. Try figuring out what you don't want. And that's going to push you closer to this end goal, to figuring out what specifically you want out of life. So those are really my 3 talking points for today's episode. I do want to talk about a couple of books for a few minutes that I've been reading recently. The very first one that I'm reading currently, and I've really been enjoying, is Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. He is very surprisingly insightful, very introspective, very reflective, and I really enjoyed his book. It's kind of crazy. He's lived a crazy life, but I've really enjoyed it, and he's an interesting character, so I would recommend reading his book. The next book I want to recommend is called The Defining Decade, and it's about why your 20s matter. I don't remember who it's by, but basically it just says that, we're in a time of comfort. We're in this time of emerging adulthood where a lot of people just kind of blow through their 20s, just have fun, and just relax. And this book basically explains why this is a time that you can use to really develop yourself, to try to get closer to the life you actually want, why your 20s really do matter. So if you're in your 20s, if you're a little younger, even if you're in your 30s, it's a pretty great book to read. Super easy read. I think I read it in like 2 days. I got super into it. Found it very interesting. It's by a psychologist. Again, I don't remember the name, but both of these books are on my reading list on my website. And I don't know if I actually have to say this, but if you do use it, if you do use my links, I do get a small commission, but I just have to say that in order so I don't get canceled from the Amazon affiliate program. But yes, I am using the Amazon affiliate program. So if you want to check out those books, those are both going to be on my website. I'll have that link down in the show notes as well. To wrap this episode up, I want to revisit this concept of envision and embrace, right? So a lot of times we envision it. We figure out what it is we want, but we never take that next step. We never embrace the challenge. So my challenge for you today is to actually do that. So envision who it is you want to be. Envision what it is you want to become, and then embrace the challenges required to get there. It's always going to be a struggle. If there's something you truly want, something that's actually meaningful, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to be a struggle. Nothing good comes without a struggle, right? It is a pain. It is a process. But in doing so, in embracing the challenges, you're going to achieve your vision. You're going to earn your vision. So get after it. Don't just let it be an idea. Don't just let it be a dream. Make it a vision. Make it crystal clear and make it happen. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Please download this episode. Do those things. It would help me a whole lot. I feel so repetitive saying that, and every time I ask for it, I say the exact same thing, so it kind of bugs me, but I don't know how else to say it. It would just be awesome if you did so. But if not, that's okay. Stay connected with me on social media. Do all those things. That's great as well. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to next week's episode. I hope you have a fantastic 4th of July with your friends and family. Be safe and have fun doing whatever you plan on doing this weekend. Looks like it's going to be sunny out. It's been raining a whole lot here in Michigan over the past week, but it looks like we got some nice weather for the weekend. So that's awesome. And I'll see you next time on the next episode of Ion Motive. Until then, remember the Ion Motive. Take charge of your